Northern Libya was once where the dramatic history of an ancient town was created. The history of Leptis Magna. The ancient metropolis was the first and the oldest Phoenician settlement that formed part of what was later known as Tripolitania. The exact date when this area was first settled is not known. Although archaeological excavation has revealed many treasures and works of art, this fascinating city still holds many secrets. Archaeologists have attempted in vain to discover more of when Leptis Magna was inhabited by the Phoenicians. To whom were these headless statues dedicated? Despite their decayed condition, they still managed to indicate the highly developed art of ancient stonemasonry. And various inscriptions that have been found here provided further valuable information. The oldest of these were discovered in a Punic cemetery. The rock tombs of the Puniae, whom the Romans named the Carthaginians, were built later. Under the rule of Carthage, the city enjoyed its first modest success, yet it had to pay high taxes. With the exception of the cemetery, nothing else has survived from those times. Written accounts indicate that for a brief period, the city was part of the Numidian kingdom, whose population enjoyed lower taxation. This was followed by an upturn in the economy. But the city also became involved in numerous warlike hostilities. Thus, the inhabitants of Leptis Magna decided to fraternize with Rome against the Numidians. 100 years later, the city changed its allegiance. This proved not to be a good idea. Following the triumph of Julius Caesar in 48 BC, the city was duly punished for its betrayal. It was forced to pay a tribute of £3 million of olive oil that briefly affected the flourishing economy of Leptis Magna. But the city soon recovered. The city's integration into the Roman Empire brought with it a new and unexpected period of both economic and cultural ascendancy. The great prosperity enjoyed by some of the traders is still apparent today in the splendid ruins of a number of the former public buildings. The inscriptions contained on these buildings that were financed by private donation were written in two languages, Latin and Punic. In subsequent times, many splendid buildings were constructed, including one of the largest Roman baths on African soil. Although both the Punic language and administrative system continued to be used, daily life was carried out according to that of the Romans. The Punic language is referred to in many inscriptions. Yet prior to the destruction of Carthage by the Romans, there were large libraries that contained much text. Only one text about agriculture was translated by the Romans into Latin. It is one of the tragedies of history that so little has survived of the former great realm of Carthage and Punic culture. Thus, this ancient tribe is still cloaked by an air of mystique. Much of this epoch has been lost forever. The remains of this city are typically Roman. The 2nd century AD brought new prosperity when Septimius Severus, who was born in Leptis Magna, became emperor of Imperium Romanum. He was extremely generous to his home city. Septimius Severus freed the city from normal taxation, so the people prospered. Resulting in further new buildings, Leptis Magna was embellished to make it worthy of an emperor. monumental buildings were constructed whose beauty and size was only surpassed by those in Rome itself. The ruins of the very large Severian Basilica highlight the amazing architectural skills of the master builders of those days. The Forum was also built at the time of Septimius Severus. Today it is the most imposing area in the ancient city. Artistic Medusa and Gorgon heads adorn the remains of a restored arcade in the Forum. In antiquity, Medusa heads were designed to provide protection against evil spirits. Today, the Forum's foyer, that was once supported by several pillars, lies in ruins. The former square, that was once the scene of various trading transactions, is now covered with the remains of numerous columns. How could such a remarkable metropolis fall into such decline? For more than a century, Leptis Magna was left untended. The once splendid buildings gradually collapsed and became covered by thick layers of sand and mud. The city's fast rise to fame as being one of the most important trading cities in North Africa was followed by an equally fast and inevitable decline. When the reign of Severus ended, the city of Leptis Magna lost its influence with Rome. The city's population lost many of its privileges. However, Rome also was at a turning point. The huge empire began to disintegrate. The monumental buildings of what had become known as Great Leptis fell into disrepair. In the time of Emperor Septimius Severus, life within this city was both luxurious and decadent. The comforts enjoyed by the wealthy were at the expense of the poor, and also slaves who were maltreated and had no rights whatsoever. For the city's architecture, the finest architects were brought to Leptis Magna. This was the ideal place in which to realize their most ambitious ideas. All sanctioned by Rome and paid for by the wealthy upper classes. The buildings continue to exude a unique atmosphere. A further striking example of the wealth of the elite is the Macellum, an ancient market hall. An inscription indicates that Annibal Tapapius Rufus was the sponsor of this building that was built in 8 BC. Even today, 2,000 years later, it is easy to imagine the market life of bygone times, and to hear the shouts of the merchant who came from each corner of the Roman Empire to offer their goods for sale. Leptis Magna's fascinating theatre was funded by Annibal Tapapius Rufus, as indicated by an inscription on the upper part of the entrance. It praises him as father of the homeland. He was a man of immense wealth. The first theatrical performances in Rome were dedicated to the gods, but soon Greek comedies and tragedies were translated into Latin and adapted to the taste of Roman audiences. The theatre lost its religious significance. A reminder of Emperor Septimius Severus, the most famous son of this ancient city, is a mighty triumphal arch. During the reform of the empire under Emperor Diocletian at the end of the 3rd century AD, Leptis Magna became the capital of the newly founded province of Tripolitania. However, almost as soon as it had been given this status, the downfall of this once glorious trading metropolis began. In addition, the harbor silted up, even though much effort was made to prevent it happening. The economy of the city was now severely threatened. So the city's prominence as capital of Tripolitania lasted for only a short time. Along with Rome, Leptis Magna lost its military influence and strength. Hostilities with the Berber tribes became more frequent. The upper classes now had to fear not only for their possessions, but also for their lives. This was the beginning of the end for Leptis Magna. Many of its rich inhabitants abandoned the city. Outside the city, the villas on the coast still show their former splendor, but almost nothing is known of those who once inhabited them. Again, these ruins provide an insight into the lifestyle that was once enjoyed here, the harmonic architecture and magnificent location of the villas. All this adds to the unique and captivating atmosphere of this place. The city's amphitheatre, that was once the scene of bloody gladiatorial battles and wildlife savagery, also possesses its own special ambience. Leptis Magna was an important port for the export of wild animals from Africa's southern regions, such as elephants, lions, and leopards. How many gladiators and innocents perished here is not known. The cruel entertainments and increasing decadence of the Romans brought an end to the glorious epoch of Leptis Magna. With the conquest of Tripolitania by the Arabs, the city lost its importance. For many years, Leptis Magna was lost to history, until it was rediscovered in the 20th century, when it once again revealed much of the magic of its truly glorious past.